All right, everyone. We're here at 343 Labs, and I have Dan Freeman with me, who is going to be talking to us about his crazy self-made controller. Dan and I have been friends a long time and colleagues. We used to teach together at Dubspot. He's a certified Ableton trainer and amazing musician. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here at 343.
Yeah, of course. So today we're going to spend a few minutes just talking about your instrument, which I know you've been building for some time and kind of I guess practicing and yeah, we just want to learn more about it.
Sure. Well, I mean, the instrument itself is really just, as you can probably see, is a pretty actually simple thing. It's just a push with a nano control and a Newmark orbit controller. But I think, for me, it's as a live kind of electronic music performer, it's really kind of been something that's been a lot of fun. I put it together in August. And really all it is, it's my setup that used to be a table that I'm now wearing on my body. And I think just for me personally, as a bass player, that's something that just kind of makes sense. But also I think too, it's something that I felt when after spending years as a bass player, because I was a session player here in New York, where, I was used to actually playing instruments and wearing them. And I think actually as performers, there is something to be said about wearing an instrument. There was actually, I once, years ago, saw a TED Talk. I don't know, Max, if you've seen it. It's the on power poses.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, wait, the one with the...
Yes, yeah, with the Wonder Woman pose.
Yeah, the Wonder Woman pose, yeah.
And so what's interesting is that, and for those of you who don't know it, if you really want to kind of feel confident, before a date or, I don't know, before an interview, you literally stand for 2 minutes in what's called the Wonder Woman pose, which is your feet apart, chest out,
Yeah. I do that every morning.
It works. Look. So the point is that I felt like what's interesting is when you play on stage with an acoustic instrument, whether it's a sax, whether it's the bass, electric guitar, the instrument actually will naturally force you into that position, which is why there is something cool about looking at people playing acoustic instruments. I mean, you wear a bass and you are like this, chest open.
That's why I play the saxophone.
Exactly. Or singing or whatever it is.
Right.
The problem with electronic music performance when you're playing behind a table is it's the opposite. You naturally go like this.
Right.
And that is like the opposite of power pose because your chest is closed and you're directing energy kind of inward rather than outward. So for me, somebody suggested that I take the stuff on the table and put it back onto my body. And so, I went to Home Depot and put it together. And I feel just like the energy-wise has really kind of allowed me to, get back to focusing energy outwards rather than kind of inwards.
So let's just take a step back and just talk about your relationship with Ableton Live. You've been playing or you've been performing with Ableton Live since 2005. Can you talk a little bit about how it's changed since then?
Sure. Yeah, I really actually got into Ableton many years ago for that reason, actually, to play live. For me, for years, it was not something I used for production. Now I do. And interesting enough, the reason I first got into it was I was playing with an artist. I was actually musically directing the artist, and it was a time when the record companies were really cutting back budgets. So they wanted to send us to Berlin, actually to play at Berghain, which I had no idea what it was, but at the time it was just a club, but we can only bring 3 people, and so I wanted to go to Berlin. I'd never been there before. The singer, and then we decided to bring a drummer running Ableton. So the way we originally used Ableton was really just kind of like to play back tracks. It was almost to do like karaoke. I mean, something you could pretty much do with your phone now just by hitting play. I think like in the years that kind of I've been working with Ableton, I've seen it become much more of a true live instrument. And by live performance, and I don't mean this to denigrate, to say like DJs in any way, who I totally respect and admire and are really heroes of mine. But for me, a live performance is creating music for the space, for the people, for the moment. And so that means moving away from kind of like pre-recorded stuff. Although again, there's nothing wrong with playing live with pre-recorded stuff, but moving towards electronic music created in the moment. And so, in these last, I guess, 14 years now, I've seen kind of like, I feel like there is definitely much more of a movement to get the electronic sound, but to use it less as a playback machine and more as like an instrument or a true music kind of creation machine.
And were there things that you find that Ableton can do now or Live can do now that it couldn't do back then? Or how has the progression been since in the last 14 years?
Yeah, I think actually for me, one of the most powerful things that exists now that didn't exist then is CliffX.
Okay.
And CliffX, for those of you who don't know, is a scripting program. It's made by a guy named Stray, who made it at first for Native Control, and now it's actually it is CliffX Pro. So now it costs $40. It was for you, it was free. But what CliffX enables you to do is a very simple scripting language, and enables you to basically customize controllers, so that like instead of moving your mouse around to control Ableton, like you can basically assign like, I don't know, almost unlimited functions to single buttons. And I think part of, for me personally, I guess just my own journey in this is basically getting away from ever looking at a laptop during a live performance, because I just personally think that that's as a buzzkill, and it's also distracts. Again, if performance is really about transmission of energy, both to the audience and taking it from the audience, like this gets in the way of that.
Of course.
So the great thing about CliffX is that functions that you previously would have to do with a mouse can now be done with controllers.
All right, cool. So Dan, I guess you were talking about like how you wanted to bring the push away from the table and onto your body and play it like a bass or like an instrument that is standing up. If you were to generalize, or even, how did you approach building your controller and like putting it all together, and like maybe talk generally about how anyone would go about making their own controller?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like 3 years ago, I had the privilege of working with Roger Lynn at NYU. And so Roger came and gave a talk, and then I was able to spend some time with him. And he told me something really cool. He said, like, we are in the dark ages of musical interfaces for computers, meaning that the computers can do incredible stuff like with sound design, with looping, et cetera, but the interfaces that we've been assigning them are actually, and this is coming from the person who probably actually invented a lot of these interfaces. Yeah, he just considered them really kind of like stupid and backwards, as in they're just kind of like buttons. And so I don't know. It's not whether I agree or kind of disagree with him, but where I do agree with him is I think like we are in this like really kind of interesting period where it's like we're so advanced here on the laptop, but it's like there's no set controller that exists, in any kind of form. So in a sense, it's like it's up to people, any live performer, and that's actually really the great thing about this moment, is that any live performer can build their own controller to do whatever they want it to do or however they're comfortable with it. There's really no rules. It's kind of the Wild West at this point. This controller was put together with like, a bunch of Velcro and I went to Home Depot and bought some clamps and Velcro. So it cost me $18. So there's nothing high tech about actually just throwing something like this together. And again, it's like you can be kind of as creative as you want. I think actually the creativity of this comes not necessarily here, but it comes actually with the programming of Ableton, which is another very big part of it. Right.
So you're obviously using the push.
I'm using the push.
And then what else do you have?
I have a Nano Control 2, and I have a Novation. A Newmark Orbit.
Okay, and so I guess you had to make a decision about which controllers you were going to use. So how did you make those decisions?
I was using them live anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly enough, like when I had this on a table, basically I was always using my right hand to make music and my left hand to like, have like expression and effects. So it was kind of like an easy decision. So that's still on this instrument how I do it. It's right hand music, left hand kind of, expression and effects.
Okay. Great. Now here's the big question.
Yes.
What happens when technology breaks down?
Well, you know, it's having.
Does it ever?
It does it ever. It's more like what happens when it doesn't break down.
All right.
You
Okay.
know, then you're just like, wow. You know, that's that. So look, the thing is, I think as an electronic music performer, and you know, I mean, you're a very experienced performer yourself. It's like something's always going to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just without a doubt.
Yeah.
So I think really kind of what separates, you know, people who are experienced doing it with people who aren't as experienced is not whether stuff goes wrong, because it will go wrong for everybody. But I think in terms like how fast you can deal with it. And I think like kind of like the pieces of advice I would give is that, first of all, it's super important to know all of your gear. I mean, like absolutely know like what every single knob and every single fader does. And for me, one of the great things too about putting an instrument together like this, as opposed to having it on a table, is that the positions never shift. So I can always use muscle memory rather than actually think. And I think thinking in live performance is not a good thing.
Yeah.
The other thing too is like you have to have your programming within Ableton has to be super clean. So that means, you know, when you set up the sets, you've got to keep your CPU low. You've got to watch out for external plugins, all of these things. I've had the privilege of having Daniel Mitsaris, who's the sound designer keyboardist for St. Vincent, who also has a great course up on lynda.com on live performance. And he says something really funny but true, which is that if Ableton crashes during a live performance, it's your fault. And
it's true, yeah.
And he's right.
Yeah.
And the fact is that like you've got to practice a lot, just like you would any instrument.
Yeah.
And when something goes wrong, you have just got to immediately get to the root of why it's going wrong and fix it. And you know, you do that, and Ableton is actually fairly reliable.
Yeah.
But again, something will always go a little bit off or be a little wrong, and that's you knowing your equipment and being able to like fix it.
Okay.
Before the audience notices.
Yeah, that's great advice. And speaking of practicing, do you approach this instrument just like any other instrument that you have to practice? Do you like shed it?
Yeah, great question. And it's funny because, you know, both of us have an instrumental background. I do shed it.
Okay.
Like for, you know, now for the last couple months, I've been, you know, shedding it every morning for, you know, not a long time. I don't necessarily have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. Wow.
And, you know, I practice like technical exercises just like I would an instrument. And I actually do a recording. I record a little song every morning with it.
Wow.
So it really kind of, you know, I find that like by just kind of that repetitive practice, it allows me to just really start flowing with the instrument and, you know, being able to create stuff.
And then is your repertoire? So we're going to hear you play tonight at the show tonight. Is your repertoire improvised? Is it predetermined? Talk us about like how you put together your repertoire.
Yeah, it's a good question. At this moment, so what I'm in the process of actually making my first record with this.
Nice.
And so what I've been doing is I'm basically I'm really shooting to create like 40, 30-second songs. And then I'm going to work with
40, 30-second songs.
Yeah, 40, 30-second songs. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm now at
how does that work?
I'm now at 25. You just sit down every morning and write 30 seconds of music.
Okay.
You know, from an improvisation.
Okay, cool.
You know, most of them are garbage, but I've been working the last couple of months in the studio with you know, I've had the privilege to work with Alejandro Vega, who's a producer instrumentalist from Nicaragua. We've been working closely. So once I get hit 40, we're going to go and pick 5 and then develop out 5.
Oh, okay.
Because again, most of them are throwaways. For the repertoire tonight, what I'm going to do is, so what I've been doing in the meantime when I'm playing live is I have like some general ideas, and I use those as the bases of improvisations. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to play a couple of those.
Okay.
You know, plus I do have a piece that I have learned that's by a famous composer. But
Bach.
Yes.
Yes. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been
cello suites.
Cello suite. So I've been working on the cello suite. That's really actually, the cello suite is one of the greatest ways. And you can actually practice it if you really want to get your push chops up. And it doesn't matter here or like this. It's like literally take up a Bach cello suite because they're one note composition. One line compositions.
Yeah.
And they are just the most, you know, technical, like, you know, kind of most incredible exercises.
For any instrument, really.
Any instrument.
So that's great. When I heard you play that first, I was like, that's so cool. Like bringing, you know, the ultimate classical tradition with like the
Yeah.
ultimate new technology
Yeah.
of the next century.
Yeah, it's funny because it does work really well on the push because the push actually has, it's divided into perfect fourths, and
Uh-huh. So you have you have it set up like a bass?
I do have it set up like a bass.
Okay.
Yeah, really it's really for me. I consider it like an 8-string bass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, great. Final question then. Where do you see technology going? And this could be where do you see Ableton Live going, but also just generally, where do you see technology and technology performance going
Yeah.
in the next whatever many years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a couple things that I see kind of really happening with it. I see, I could be wrong on this, but I kind of see the laptop being phased out over time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that these will kind of be incorporated more and more into controllers. First of all, which I don't think is a bad thing. Or maybe at least on stage, they may be kind of like powerful machines kind of in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the development of new kind of controllers or new kind of instruments that people just put together and kind of learn just like they did older instruments. I also see much more integration with visuals to create. I think like concerts for the future are going to be like truly, like multimedia or like multi-sensory experiences.
Sure.
Visuals, who knows, smell, I don't know.
Yeah.
All of those things to really kind of like take you into a totally different world. Holograms. All this kind of stuff to kind of lift you into an alternative kind of reality.
All right, cool. Well, thanks so much, Dan, for stopping by and talking us through introducing your instrument to us. Really looking forward to the show. Always great to have you here, and we can't wait to see what this is going to do on stage for us.
Cool. Thanks, Max. Thanks for having me, and congrats to all the great stuff you guys are doing here.
Thank you so much.
343 Labs is an electronic music school and community in downtown Manhattan. We offer courses for all levels of learning electronic music production, with course topics including Ableton Live, Logic, synthesis for music producers, songwriting and music theory, and more. To learn more about 343 Labs, head to 343labs.com. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for more tutorials with our instructors, master classes, and content from our electronic music community.